Hey, good afternoon and welcome to the Real Me, Chapter 23. We are well on our way to finishing this book. This is the start of a new section of the book. The laws of Hashem are proper. Pekudei Hashem Misharim. A healthy approach to the central mitzvahs of our lives. There's 4 chapters. We're going to talk about the main mitzvahs that are important for men and for women. He says for men, the main mitzvahs are learning Torah and Tefillah. And for women, it's tznius. Some women put a lot of effort into tefillah and saying tehillim. So chapter 23 is about the goal of learning Torah. He's talking about learning Torah and how we can relate it to our personal, occupation with Torah. Now, I like this whole book. It's really catered for the Haredi sector, maybe the yeshiva sector of America. It's taken as a given in this chapter that what you're supposed to be doing your whole life is learning Torah, sitting in Kollel. Obviously, if you get a stellar, if you get a job as a Maggid Shir, as Rosh Hashiva, as the Rav of a Shul, those are unbelievable things, and those are great aspirations to have, and it shows that you reach a certain level, and if you have the right intentions, it's something to actually strive for. Some people would say that actually it's better just to sit and learn the whole day because that you're doing the Lishma. Big tzaddikim would avoid getting positions, taking positions. Chavetz Chaim, I don't think ever had an official position because he wanted to learn the Shema. He did write the Mishnah Brura and the Shemiras Lashon, so he did end up writing books. But he didn't want to take a position because he felt that's not considered learning the Shema. You're learning for the honor, or you're learning for the money, that you're going to get paid for that job. He says it's non-productive activity and impossibility. He says basically that everything we do in life, we want to see tangible results. He says a 2-year-old loves to build with Lego because he sees the fruits of his labor, right? He has no patience, though, to wait long for his creation to appear. He will not be able to work on a puzzle 100 pieces. It takes too long to get results. A 5-year-old girl, she could clean up her room. 15-year-old girl, she'll put a month of labor into sewing a dress. A college student will put in 3-4 years or 10 years going to a doctor. Right? In brief, the older and more mature the person is, the more he's willing to await the results of his work. Albeit with the idea that he's going to get something out of it. He has a goal in mind and he's going to reach that goal. The rule remains the same. People are willing to work when results are expected. However, if the time to reach the goal is not visible on the horizon, you don't see when you'll get clear results, or it isn't clear that there will be a result. You're not even sure you'll get anywhere with it. The work becomes intolerable. It's really true, right? Chazal say that avodas parach, right? Avodas parach is when you make slaves build something they're not going to use. Build it and then destroy it. I mean, Pito and Varam says they were building those pyramids. They ever use those pyramids? Pyramids of Giza. They actually did use the pyramids. Anyway, that's what avodas parach. The worst avodas parach you can do, that's the hardest work, is when you're doing something and you're not going to see results. You're going to build it and destroy it. Right, Bona Manas Listor. You're building on, with the preparation with the idea of destroying it in the end. You're not seeing any value in what you're doing. And he says this is the biggest problem with our lives. Granted that that's what we're supposed to be doing, learning Torah our whole lives and entering Kollel when we get married, and just striving. We don't have clear goals. That's what he says over here. That's a problem. We don't have clear goals. So in order to answer this question, we don't have clear goals, and obviously it's intolerable to live a life like this. There are, so many people struggle, to get a sipuk in their learning, to get enjoyment in their learning. This is a real problem. I struggled with it for many years, but, in my mind, in the back of my mind, I always said, what? I'll write a sefer. I'll be a Maggid Shir. I had Chidushei Torah. I'll be a Maggid Shir someday. I didn't know how. I didn't know when. I also wanted that stellar, that position. I was waiting for that position to one day to get that position or to write a book. I actually did write a book. I'm not going to print it because the ideas are contrary to what I believe today. But I wrote a book about the proper hashkafa, 50 chapters about the proper hashkafa of Torah. I even got haskama from Yisrael Belsky. I have to put this my YouTube channel. Haskama Yisrael Belsky wrote haskama on a sefer that I will not publish because the hashkafos were Haredi hashkafos, really. I did it in a joking way, but, I was very ba'ad, I was very for Haredi hashkafas. My hashkafas have changed, my ideologies have changed. So I did write a book. I put it in writing, and that's that's my Rebbe, Koningsberg, my first Rebbe from YU, he would always write down his chidushim, and he got a sipa from writing them down. Um, there's a problem. He said everyone is learning. No one has had any clear goals. So the answer to that is, it's hard for me to understand exactly what he's saying, but he says we have to realize that learning is not just about learning. Even though they asked for Aaron Kollel on his deathbed, he says, why are we learning? Why is BMG, the whole BMG is learning? What should we have in mind when we're learning? He said you should learn for the sake of learning, meaning for the sake of the mitzvah of learning. It's a mitzvah to learn Torah. Just have in mind that you're learning Torah. Obviously, that's the problem. You're not getting anywhere with that, right? It's just doing something. You don't feel like you're getting anything. So he brings a lot of chazals that say that besides the mitzvah of learning Torah just lishma, just for the sake of learning, that's what he identifies, he translates lishma as for the sake of just learning. For the mitzvah, there's also a mitzvah to accumulate knowledge of the Torah. That's the point of the Torah, is to, he brings to the nefesh hachayim, amnas the host of lekach l'pil. Torah lishma means in order to increase lessons and in-depth study. And he brings from the Rambam. The Rambam says that you should try to remember as much as Torah. You have ideas at Torah. You should remember the Torah. I know the first Lubavitcher Rebbe, the Griz, the Shner Liadi, he said there's two mitzvahs limud Torah. One is to remember the Torah. One is to learn the Torah. One is to remember the Torah. You got to remember the Torah. For some people, this actually, they actually get seatbag out of this. There are some really big Talmidei Chachamim that remember everything. There's this guy, Shas Cohen. I don't know. He can put the needle in a Gemara through all the pages, and I'll tell you which, stick the needle through all the pages of the Gemara. I'll tell you every word on every page where that needle went through. He has a photographic memory. Some people have photographic memories, and they really enjoy the Torah because they can remember it. And for some people, most people can't remember too much what they learn. So that's what he says. He even brings the Gemara Kedushin, good old Talmud, maybe they Maisa. It can only happen if the learning is done in a way that increases the awareness of our obligations. I would have said the Gemara is talking about Torah is greater than actions because Torah leads you to actions. The whole purpose of Torah is to Makayim the Torah. That's what Pirkei Avos says, right? The purpose of Torah, Alomin Amanas Lamed, is not so great. Lomin Amanas Lasos, Lishmor Lasos Makayim, to Makayim the Torah, to know the Torah, not just for the sake of knowing the Torah, to know what to do with the Torah. And the author really leaves that out over here. He says the point of learning is to know the Torah. Adam and Chava ate from the Eitz Hadas. Knowledge is not what we're looking for. We're looking at how to translate that knowledge into action. So he says that the way to defeat this problem that's so prevalent in the Haredi world about not getting any sipuk and enjoyment in our learning is that we have to have clearly defined achievements. We have to try to remember the Torah, try to review our learning. And that's what we really have to do, And he says the test is that we can give up his dreaming for the coveted stellar. He says one thing is that we should try to learn to remember the Torah, and secondly, you should try to learn in order that you try to learn, like the Gemara says, Masha Libo Chafei, learn things that you have a proclivity to learn, a natural proclivity to learn. You enjoy learning them, even though the thing you're learning might not give you smicha, it might not be in the sugyas of ksuvos and bava kama, where you're going to say shiurim in front of all the talmidim about things that are, shir kloli, the shiurim that everyone wants to talk about. You like learning zroim, you like learning, kodshim, things like kodshim. You can go to brisk and give shir, but I don't know. You like learning brachos or something like that. So learn things that you enjoy, learn things for knowledge, and you will have solved the problem. That's what he says. I disagree with the author fundamentally on many points over here. I have a lot of things to say about this, but I'm going to try to be concise over here. First of all, the whole premise is mistaken. Obviously, the author acknowledges this, that he's saying this, that we're talking to the Haredi sector over here who have assumed that the Kollel lifestyle is the only option. And that is a huge problem. As I mentioned many before, I am very against the Kollel lifestyle. I believe it's the wrong choice in life. Especially everybody should be a Kollel lifestyle. If you have the money, you earned a lot of money in the stock market, or you have a big Yerusha and you have a lot of money set aside for many years, no problem. Go learn in Kollel. You have money, but to throw yourself, we're talking about Maseches Ksuvos, someone who takes stucco when they don't need to take stucco. they can earn a living. He's gonna get paid back after he dies. He's gonna eventually have a very difficult life. The Gemara says it's an abhorrent thing to do such a thing, to take money when you don't need it. And if you can work, you don't need the money. So the whole system, I think, is broken. This is a new system that was introduced, I don't know, 30, 40 years ago. And it's really sad because besides the fact that people don't have what to live on, they can't afford to live on, and it forces, Bachram to hold out on marriages to get apartments because there's no other way that they can live if they can make it financially. Even then, they can't make it financially. Uh, Besides all of those things, the biggest problem with this way of lifestyle is that people don't realize their true talents. I have a relative, a brother-in-law. He's talented in singing, but he grew up in the Haredi lifestyle, and the only option is to go into Kollel. He can't pursue his musical career. That's not an option. It's not really an option. If you're a serious Ben Torah, you'll never get a shidduch like that, and it's your only option. So when it's your only option, so you've disregarded all the talents and the strengths of people that are not in learning. Not everyone has their strengths in learning. Some people are very gifted academically and will do very well in learning and becoming a rabbi, getting smicha, and maybe giving a shir one day. They'll be very successful in that. But you can't, take everyone and assume they only have talents in learning, because some people can't sit. A lot of people can't sit for a long time. And there's a lot of people, they end up, just sitting in the base medrash and not getting anywhere. They have no motivation to get anywhere. The only motivation is do things that you like doing. You're right, Torah, libo chavetz. When you're learning Torah, you should learn things you like. But not everyone has libo chavetz to spend the rest of their lives learning Torah. The second point about, even if you decide that learning Torah is the right thing for you, you're someone who has a mind for it, and you can sit long enough and you can be successful in it. He does make a good point about having clear goals that you can achieve. Knowing the Torah, for some people, they can remember, they have photographic memories that will bring them enjoyment, that will bring them sipuk. Most people can't remember that. For those people that can't remember, I recommend, like my Rebbe said, to write down your Chidushei Torah, or even better yet, to do what I'm doing, to take a video camera and, say your shiurim on video camera, upload them to the internet, YouTube, or any, Torah Anytime, somewhere else where people can see your shiurim. That can be a motivation itself to teach Torah to other people. You can't always get a stellar. People are hoping for the stellar because it gives an opportunity to teach other people. That's really what every Ben Torah. He's sitting in yeshiva. He wants to, do something. He wants to get a goal. Having Talmidim listen to you, there's honor and prestige in it, but also it makes you feel good that people are gaining from you, and you're able to give your chidushim over to other people. Just to write your chidushim, it's a start, but no one sees them, right? Maybe you'll publish a sefer, people will see it and give you compliments on it, but sometimes you'll just write it down. A lot of people have these notebooks filled with chidushim, it never goes anywhere. So it has to be able to be accessed by people. You have to be some people will go to America and try to collect money so they can pay for their own kollel. They pay for their own kollel. They have talmidim. They give a share once a week. Finance a kollel. I know several roshei kollel. I was part of a couple of kollel. At least one kollel I was part of. I know other roshei kollel that finance the whole kollel, just be able to give a share and say, part of it is kavod, is prestige, that he's the Rosh Kollel, but Rosh Kollel is not a Rosh Hashiva, it's not the same prestige, but at least you have someone to give a share to. I remember a friend when I was younger, I grew up with in high school and stuff like that, and he, became very frum very quickly. Even in high school, he was becoming frum, and many years later, like 3 years later, after I graduated college, I went to the Mir Yeshiva. I was with him in the Mir Yeshiva. And we went to an old rabbi's house for Shabbos, and he said his goal is he only wants in life just to have 20 Talmidim. And he was, that's all he wanted. He was 21 years old, that's what he wanted in life. He just wants to have 20 Talmidim and give shir to. I mean, that's Limon Asalami. The whole purpose of learning is just to teach Torah. No, it has to be Lishmor Velasas. It has to be to Mekayim the Torah, to accomplish the Torah, and just to give over to students, just to give over your teachings to students. While it's something, it's not really a completion of yourself and completion of the Torah, because you're teaching other people, but you're not being Mekayim the Torah. So even that doesn't, that's not enough. So first of all, writing down is not enough. And even if you have Talmidim, you're just living Manas Lamed, the real truth of the Torah, Lishma Velasquez Lakayim, and the only way to really do that is to actually get into the world, get into the real world. And so much of the Torah doesn't apply to people who sit in the base medrash all day. It doesn't apply to them because they don't know. Chosh Mishpah doesn't apply to them. Even Ezra doesn't apply to them. So even Ezra, if you get married, it applies to you, but Bachram doesn't apply. So these things don't apply to you. If you get a job, and you open up a restaurant or you start a business, so many of the laws apply to you. Or a day, Chosh Mishpat. So get into the real world, and Lishmor Velasquez, the Torah will become a living Torah. It's not the Torah, the knowledge is not the Ikr. The knowledge is just so you know how to be Mekayim the Torah. And that's ultimately the point of the Torah. So, yes, it's one step to see results, to write them down. Another step, maybe to have Talmidim will hear your shiur. You'll feel good about that. You're giving over but you're never going to feel fully fulfilled until you're doing the real purpose of Torah, which is Lishmar Velasquez or Mekayim, to Mekayim the Torah. And in order to do that, you have to go into the real world. You have to get a job. And when you get a job, you have so many halachos apply to you, and you feel like the Torah applies to you and has relevance to you. Me personally, from Googling a lot of things about businesses, I have a completely different perspective when I open up Maseches Ksubos, open up Maseches Bava Kama. I can understand what they're talking about on a practical level because I have business knowledge. I have knowledge about the real world. When you knowledge about the real world, you have real pshatim in the Gemara, real chidushim in the Torah, and you can see how that's synthesized in my shiurim that I give on the Gemara. And if you haven't listened to my shiurim on the Gemara, start listening because I incorporate a lot of contemporary knowledge into the Gemara, and that's really the way it is. That if you're not main derech saying Torah, if you're not accustomed to the world, you're not involved in the world. You're just sitting and learning the base measure. You're not involved in the world. You'll never understand the Torah. That's really what the point is. And in Mekayim the Torah. So really, what I'm saying is that you have to. The ultimate thing. It's not good enough just to write down your Chiddush Torah, or even to teach other people Torah. You have to enter the world, which is basically what I said in the beginning. That you really have to enter the world, and use your talents, and the Torah will apply to you. And it's meant the Torah should incorporate the Torah into your life. In order to give you a better life. The point of Torah is not just to do it for the sake of the mitzvah of learning. Lishma, like it says, Lishma, Torah. Torah means Mora Derech, to show you a way, to guide you in life. That's the point of the Torah, to guide you, not to guide you in which Masechta you're learning, to guide you in real grown-up things, making a living, having a family, having a wife, and, communal responsibility and communal contribution, and, ultimately stardom and success. Hope you enjoyed today's share. See you in the next one.